Mughal emperors. Sheikh Abdul Quddus Gangohi told Babur that during Sikandar Lodi's regime, the Hindus took to learning Persian and were recruited in large number to different posts. Babur does not refer to slaves in India. Sher Shah. Grandfather was a petty horse trader from Afghanistan. Father Hassan emerged as a leader of Afghan freebooters and was placed in charge of Narnaul Pargana. Sher Shah struck fine points of silver and copper of uniform standards, made efforts to standardize weights and measures. In his empire, goods paid custom duty only 2 times, at the place of entry and at the time of sale. He built 1700 sarais. Sher Shah's use of Hindu language in administration measure of his practical sense. He enforced law and order with a heavy hand. Rupiah, silver coin, and dam, copper coin. Earliest example of documentation found during the he enforced law and order with a heavy hand. Rupiah, silver coin, and dam, copper coin. Earliest examples of documentation found during the period of Humayun. Mir Musawwir and Sayyid Ali, Persian painters duo, joined Humayun's court. Akbar gave the Mughal Empire its immensely systematic and centralized structure. Historian Nizamuddin Ahmad, Akbar's empire. Akbar gave the Mughal Empire its immensely systematic and centralized structure. Historian Nizamuddin Ahmad said Akbar's empire 1592 contained 120 cities and 3,200 towns. Akbar inherited a large range of artillery that included Tufang, Top, Deg, Zarbzan. Tomb of Akbar, a multi-storied structure. Jahangir completed its construction in 1614. The first 3 stories are pillared. Top floor built of white marble. Cheras, slave contingent during Akbar's period. Watan Jagir during end of Akbar's reign. Mughals established their dominance in Bengal during Akbar's reign. Jahangir's period, certain painters developed areas of expertise in field of Mughal paintings. Mansoor, painting animals and flowers. Abul Hasan, a portraitist. Govardhan, painting holy men, musicians and eccentrics. Jahangir introduced Do Aspa, See Aspa, and was impressed with the philosophy of Vedanta and went to meet Jadrup Gosai. Jahangir dispatched Prince Parvez against the Rana of Mewar. Mewad. Jahangir mentioned in his Tuzuk-e-Jahangiri about the submission of Rana of Mewar, Amar Singh, who agreed to send his son Karan Singh on to the Mughal court. Karan Singh was given the mansab of 5,000 Zad, 5,000 Sawar. Jahangir married Marwar Princess Jodha. Akhbar ul Akhyar, biographies of Sufis of India, and the author presented it to Jahangir. Shah Jahan's father-in-law Asaf Khan, active in the seaborne trade. From 1630, Mughals tried to gain control of the maritime trade of Bengal. Mughals ousted the Portuguese traders from Hooghly, Bengal. Shah Jahan most interested in maritime trade. Earliest example of Mughal baluster columns found in Shah Jahan's fortress palaces. Muhammad Siddiq Khan, chronicler of Shah Jahan. Practice of ijara became very common during his reign, and that it was one of the causes of the ruin of peasantry. Sanskrit intellectuals of 17th century having relations with Shah Jahan. Jagannath Pandit Raja, Kavindracharya Saraswati. Peter Mundi, Italian traveller during Shah Jahan's reign. Mughals lost Kandhar to the Safavids in 1649. Shah Jahan took action against Rana Raj Singh of Mewar for refortifying Chittor and forced the Rajas of Kumaon and Garhwal to accept the Mughal overlordship. Shah Jahan's attack on Hooghly, 1632, was successful against Portuguese. Music during Aurangzeb. Fakirullah wrote musical treatise entitled Rag Darpan. Zebunissa, daughter of Aurangzeb, was a renowned patron of music. Jai Singh I of Kachwa royal family of Amir served Aurangzeb. Ganj-e-Sawai, Aurangzeb's best ship. Mughal administration. Mansabdars were allotted mashrut in lieu of conditional rank. Parvanshahs of Mughals, official term for the rescripts of the ministers, grandees of the Mughal Empire. It didn't require the royal seal. They were issued in accordance with the previous order of the emperor. Officers associated with the administration of Mughal cities. Qazi, Mir-e-Adl, Kotwal. Mughal Jagirs were frequently transferred. Jagirdars used to employ their agents. to collect the revenue. Jahangir instituted Altun Tamga Jagirs to be held permanently. Unlike Europe, nobility in Mughal India wasn't a legal category. Between 1595 and 1656, the composition of Mughal nobility also changed. The nobles, whose ancestors had been in the Mughal imperial services for more than a generation, were called Khanzads. Dag system. If Mansabdars were posted in Balkh and Badkhshan, they had to bring horsemen equal to 1/5 of their Sawar rank. This rule, Balkh Badkhshan, was later applied onto all those posts in the Kabul province. Khulasat us Siyak, written in Aurangzeb's reign, confirms these laws. Mughal finance system, a well-developed system of finance and credit. Use of handis or bills of exchange was widespread. There was an insurance system. Transport across land was costlier as it was more vulnerable to the exactions of chiefs and rebels. Mughal rulers Khalisa share in total jam. Akbar 1/4, Jahangir 1/20, Shah Jahan 1/7, Aurangzeb 1/5. The Dasal system introduced by Akbar in 1579 was based on measurement of of 10 years of land situation. The old yard Gaz-e-Sikandari was replaced by a new yard Gaz-e-Ilahi. The system of crop sharing Batai was continued after the implementation of the Dasal system. In central provinces, cultivators were to pay land revenue only in cash. Mughal emperors wanted to control the nomadic pastoral tribes of Sindh to make them sedentary and enhance the imperial income. Methods of revenue assessment in Mughal Empire. Galla Bakshi or Batai and Bahuli. Illustrated copy of Shahnama of 16th century Mughal school was prepared at the library of Abdul Rahim Khan-e-Khanan. Imperial Mughal painters were from India, Persia and Central Asia. Father Moserat. The cities look attractive from a distance, but inside them all the splendor is lost in the narrowness of the streets and the bustling of the crowds about cities in Mughal India. Dutch traveller to Agra in the 17th century, Francisco Pelsart. Francois Bernier asserted that there is no middle state in India. Bernier talks about Timariots or Jagirdars. Irfan Habib writes about crisis in Mughal Empire. W.C. Smith, first to speak of peace and revolts against the Mughal Empire. Banani describing his fall from prestige. God honored me at the beginning and disgraced me at the end of my life. Ibn Battuta, female education in South India. I saw in Hanor 13 schools for the instruction of girls and 23 for boys, a thing I have not seen anywhere else. Ibn Battuta, the only city in India that could be set in the same class as Delhi was Daulatabad or Devgiri. Al-Biruni's account of India. He was exiled and ordered to spend 10 years in India. People of untouchable castes could live only outside the villages and towns of the 4 castes. Hindus think that there is no country like theirs and no religion like theirs. Minhaj Siraj, place mentioned as Shehre-Nau, Kilokri. Colonial rule. Shyamji Krishna Verma helped Monier Williams in preparation of his Sanskrit English dictionary before leaving for England to become a barrister. Roberto de Nobili, Portuguese Roman Catholic missionary, did notable work in the field of opening some elementary schools and some orphanages. First jute spinning mill in India established at Rishra in 1855 by George Ackland. Earliest suggestions to build a railway in India made in 1831 in Madras. Pietro della Valle visited a hospital of birds at Cambay in 1623-24, where he saw some lame, sick and meatless birds and some tiny orphan mice. By 1914, about 3/4 of Indian infantry came from Punjab, Nepal and NWFP. In 1850, in large-scale industry of India, Parsis were the most prominent community engaged in trade of the 2 principal exportable goods from western coast, cotton and opium. Indian Sandhurst Committee, also known as Skene Committee. Britishers constructed a trading post in Madras Pattanam, 1639, locally known as Chenapattanam. The British had purchased the right of settlement from the local Telugu lords, the Nayaks of Kalahasti. Fort St. George became nucleus of the white town where most Europeans lived. Only white Christians were allowed to live within the fort. Treaty of Saugoli between English and Raja of Nepal. British East India Company's first trade contact with China was established in 1701. Chinese controlled it closely by restricting it to the port city Canton. Chinese traded mostly in exchange of silver. British had grown a profitable trade in silk and tea in the initial 50 years. British signed Treaty of Nanking with China in 1842. Industrial Commission was set up in 1916, which reported in 1918. An important part of the Industrial Commission report was the note written by Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, advocating positive state action. Babington Smith Committee recommendations in 1920 for currency changes. 18th century. There was consolidation and expansion of the holders of superior right in land. There was consolidation and expansion of the trading banking community. The giving of ijaras to zamindars and talukdars led to the weakening of centralization of the state. There was the rise of a class of petty gentry cum rich peasants in the countryside. Mahajan cum sahukars obtained ijara in their own names. India's export trade in Asia changed in 18th century. Earlier, the orientation of export trade had been towards West Asia. An important element behind these changes was the crisis which overwhelmed the Indian Empire of the Mughals. Traditional centers of trade suffered considerable losses. Bombay, Madras and Calcutta emerged as new centers of trade. Customs records of the Indian administrations are absent. Robert Merton's Bird, father of land settlement in northern India. 1878, outbreak of the Second Anglo-Afghan War. 1885, Third Anglo-Burmese War. 1879, Treaty of Gandamak. 1872, the Kuka Revolt. Government and laws. General Service Enlistment Act 1856, Religious Disabilities Act 1850, Post Office Act 1854, the Indian Arms Act 1878, Vernacular Press Act, Licensing Regulation of 1823 introduced by John Adams as Acting Governor General. Press Act of 1835 repealed the obnoxious Ordinance of 1823. Forest Act of 1865 empowered the state to assert control over forest resources that it immediately required while still respecting the existing rights of forest users. The Forest Act of 1878 established the basic categories of reserved and protected forests. Under it, reserve forests were made an exclusive state monopoly. Hunter Education Commission 1882 to 1883. Sadler University Commission 1917 to 19. Hartog Committee 1929. Sargent Plan of Education 1944. Government of India Act 1935. Provision for an All India Federation. Provision for responsible government with safeguards. Provision for separate representation of communal and other groups. Provision for a federal court and provincial autonomy. Charter Act 1833. Governor General Council empowered to legislate for the whole of British territories in India. Supreme Council of Governor General in Calcutta gave extraordinary power to special commissions to capture and punish rebels of 1857 revolt. In its Act 15th of June 1857, Act 14 of June 1857. Infamous section of 124A relating to sedition was incorporated into the Indian Penal Code by an Act 27 in 1870. Calcutta and Howrah Smoke Nuisances Act 1863 by the Bengal Council. Emissions of jute mills were made subject to regulations. Unpopular legislative and administrative measures by Lord Curzon. Calcutta Municipal Amendment Act, Indian Universities Act, Indian Official Secrets Amendment Act. Imperial and provincial legislative councils were entirely nominated bodies until 1892. Ilbert Bill, most extreme but by no means isolated expression of white racism. George V announced the revocation of the partition of Bengal at the Delhi Darbar. Steel Frame, speech by Lloyd George. Hunter Commission Report 1882, more liberal grants and aid for girls schools than for boys, and special scholarships and prizes for girls. Shia Committee was appointed to prepare a scheme for the complete Indianization of the officers in the Indian Army. Government of India pressurized the government of Bombay to set up a commission of inquiry to investigate the causes of the Deccan riots. Dalhousie about Awadh, a cherry that will drop into our mouth one day. Fifth report was produced by a select committee submitted to British Parliament in 1813. It ran into 1002 pages. Over 800 pages were appendices that reproduce petitions of zamindars and riots, reports of collectors from different districts, statistical tables on revenue returns, and notes on the revenue and judicial administration of Bengal and Madras written by officials. Code of Civil Procedure 1859, Negotiable Instrument Act 1881, Law of Contract 1872, Specific Relief Act 1877, Regulations of 1799 and 1812 gave the zamindars the right to seize property of the tenants in case of non-payment of rent without any permission of a court of law. Modern writings. R.P. Goldman, editor of the English translation of critical edition of Ramayana by Valmiki. Thai Ramayana is called Ramkian. Muslim Mughal government and administration, written by Sri Ram Sharma. The history and culture of Indian people, by R.C. Majumdar. We or our nationhood, defined, M.S. Gowalkar. Dr. Keshav Baliram Hedgewar, Rakesh Sinha. Atul wrote Munshik Vamsh. Munshi Premchand wrote Soze Watan. Gan Devta, written by Tara Shankar Bandyopadhyay. It describes the village life in an interior district of West Bengal in the 1920s and 1930s and decline of Jajmani system. Jajmani system, village artisans supply traditionally fixed quantities of their products to peasant families in return for shares in the harvest. Aurobindo Ghosh wrote New Lamps for Old, described the Congress as being out of contact with the proletariat and as unnational. He thought that the Congress was dying of consumption. He said, I know my country as my mother, I adore her and I worship her. Begum Ruqya Sakhawat Hossain wrote the short stories Sultana's Dream, 1905, and Avrod Bhasini, 1929, criticizing the custom of Parda among Muslims. Lokmanya Tilak studied Vedang Jyotish, astronomy as expounded by Vedas. Dr. R.N. Dhandekar, eminent Indologist. Max Muller sent a copy of Rigved edited by himself to Tilak. Tilak wrote Gita Rahasya in Marathi and Arctic Home of the Vedas. Sanskrit poem Madhur Vijayam by Ganga Devi, military campaign of Kumar Kampan. Sandesh, Hindi Ram Sharma. The Web of Indian Life, Sister Nivedita, Bhushan Tripathi, Shivraj Bhushan, Gopal Ganesh Agarkar, Vakhya Mimamsa, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Orion, Pandit Sundarlal, British rule in India. Aruna Vasudev, Liberty and License in Indian Cinemas. Subramanya Bharati wrote Swatantra Pattu, a collection of songs of freedom. Author books. John William Kay, A History of the Sepoy War in India. Mary Carpenter, 6 months in India. Ramesh Chandra Dutt, The Economic History of India under Early British Rule. Valentine Carroll, India Old and New. Lewis Mumford, The City in History. Catherine Arnold, Pandemic 1918. Gauri Vishwanathan, Masks of Conquest, Literary Study and British Rule in India. Sabyasachi Bhattacharya, Vande Mataram, the Biography of a Song. Sanjay Joshi, Colonialism and its Forma of Knowledge. Nicholas B. Dirks, Fractured Modernity, Making of Middle Class in Colonial North India. Bernard S. Cohen, Colonialism and its Forma of Knowledge. Eric Hobsbawm, Castes of Mind Colonialism and the Making of Modern India. John William Kay, A History of the Sepoy War. Edward J. Thompson, The Other Side of the Middle. S.N. Sen, 1857. George McMahon, The Indian Mutiny in Perspective. Yuval Noah Harari, Homo Deus. V. Gordon Child, Piecing Together the Past. A.L. Basham, A Cultural History of India. Brian M. Fagan, People of the Earth. Francis Bacon wrote The New Instrument and said, Knowledge is power. Jyotiba Phule, Life of Shivaji. Surendranath Banerjee, A Nation in Making. Swami Vivekanand, Bhakti Yog. Dakshin Rajan Mitra Majumdar, Thakur Mar Julie. William Hodges travels in India during the years 1780, 81, 82, 83. In Hindi literature, the era of nationalism and social reform was inaugurated by Bharatendu Harishchandra, 1850 to 885. His Bharat Durdasha discusses India's decline and into misfortune. Samay Matrika of Shrimendra, adventures of a woman in various spheres of society. Hemchandra Rai Chaudhary, materials for the study of early history of Vaishnav sect. J. Gonda, aspects of early Vaishnavism. Dilip K. Chakravarti, India, an archaeological history. H.D. Sankal, prehistory and protohistory in India and Pakistan. Jacob Burckhardt, Der Cicerone was a contribution to art history. Gibbon, the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. Voltaire, philosophy of history. Montesquieu, the spirit of the laws. Catherine Macaulay, letters on education. Anand Math of Bankim Chandra Chatterjee deals with Sannyasi revolt. Novel Jalwai A. Isar modeled its hero on Vivekanand. Jyotiba Phule wrote Dharma Tritiya Ratna, exposure of the Puranas. He dedicated his book Gulamgiri to the good people of USA. V.D. Savarkar was elected as the president of the Hindu Mahasabha in 1938. He wrote Hindutva, graduate from Fergusson College, availed Krishna Varma's fellowship offer and left for London in June 1906. Established Mitra Mela at Nasik. Wrote The Indian War of Independence 1857. He became a member of the India House. The primary aim of Sayyid Ahmad Khan's causes of the Indian Revolt 1858, then government sub-judge, was to show the loyalty of Muslims, who in the years following the rebellion were viewed with suspicion and disfavour. Romesh Chandra Dutt wrote open letters to Lord Curzon on famines and land assessment in India, 1900. Pre-India events. Nehru's reluctance to reorganize state on linguistic basis had the support of Vallabhbhai Patel, C. Rajagopalachari, and C. Rajagopalachari. In 1952, Poti Sri Ramulu undertook a fast unto death over the demand for a separate Andhra state. Article 347 of Constitution protects the rights of linguistic minorities. We must be friendly to both blocs and yet join neither. Non-aligned movement policy. Communist Party of India during India-China War of 1962. One wing of the party supported the Indian government against the Chinese attack. During the World War II, Indian communists continued their united front policy against all types of imperialism. When Hitler attacked the Soviet Union, communists in India staged a right about turn and relabeled the war as a people's war. Communists in India extended all possible support and even acted as British spies in suppressing the popular revolt of 1942. Government of India rewarded CPI by declaring it as a legal organization in 1942. Evident that CPI's policy decisions were dictated by international wire pullers. Durgabai Deshmukh, chairman of First Committee constituted by Indian government on women's education after independence. Bombay Plan 1944. Question of rapid economic growth and inequitable distribution. It argued for necessity of partial nationalization and a series of workers' welfare schemes. Maharaja of Jodhpur signed the instrument of accession only after a last-minute theatrical show of defiance. French finally handed over their Indian territories to India in 1954. Indian national movement, INA and revolutionary activities. Subhash Chandra Bose proposed Indian National Army participation in the Japanese campaign against Imphal to the Japanese Field Marshal Count Terauchi. Japanese Field Marshal Terauchi showed his unwillingness towards INA participation in the proposed Japanese campaign against Imphal. INA soldiers were demoralized by defeat in Malay. They cannot complete the rigors of Japanese campaign. They would have an irresistible compulsion to cross over to their old friends. Chief of the Japanese General Staff in Burma, General Katakura, met with Bose in 1944. Bose wrote 10 chapters of his unfinished biography, which titled An Indian Pilgrim. He said any liberation of India secured through Japanese sacrifices is worse than slavery. Slogans of INA, Jai Hind and Delhi Chalo. Major Fujiwara, a Japanese army officer, persuaded Captain Mohan Singh, a prisoner of war, to work with Japanese for India's freedom. In 1943, the Japanese handed over the administration of Andaman and Nicobar Islands to INA. INA had Gandhi, Subhash, Nehru and Rani Jhansi Brigade. Bose used the words unity, faith, dedication for total mobilization for Indians in Southeast Asia, taken from Vivekanand. Bose set up two INA headquarters in Rangoon and Singapore. Bose called the suspension of non-cooperation movement by Gandhiji due to mob violence at Chauri Chaura a national calamity. Participation of Indians in the war. Bose insisted that Indians must make the maximum contribution of blood and sacrifice themselves. Subhash Brigade. New regiment of INA raised at Taiping in Malay in 1943. Raj Bihari Bose organized the base of INA. Bose set up the Azad Hind government, provisional government of Free India. British India government charged the captured INA soldiers of waging war against the king. Bhulabhai Desai was leading the defense in the trials against the members of INA. Udham Singh, executed by British government in 1940 for murder of Sir Michael O'Dwyer, of infamous Jallianwala Bagh massacre. The assassination of unpopular British officials was done in order to strike fear among officials, remove the fear and inertia of the people, and arouse their nationalist consciousness. Chittaranjan Das, also known as Deshbandhu, was the counsel for defense in the trial of Aurobindo Ghosh. Vachi Iyer of the Bharat Mata Association assassinated Magistrate Ash. Parallel but not alternative streams of agitation. Gadar movement, Indian National Army, Royal Navy revolt. Mutiny of the Indian naval ratings began in February 1946 in Bombay. Organizations and establishments: Punjab Hindu Sabha, UN Mukherjee and Lal Chand. Swadesh Bandhav Samiti, Ashwini Kumar Dutt. Mitra Mela, V.D. Savarkar. Anushilan Samiti, P. Mitra. Name of Hindustan Republican Association changed to Hindustan Socialist Republican Association at Firoz Shah Kotila Ground, Delhi. P. Anand Chalu started Madras Mahajan Sabha. K.T. Telang started Bombay Presidency Association. Anand Mohan Bose, Indian Association. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Atmiya Sabha. Swaraj Party was formed in 1923 by Motilal Nehru and C.R. Das. After the collapse of non-cooperation movement, the Swarajists aloft the banner of council entry, disregarding the opposition of the No Changers. Vittal Bhai Patel became president of the Central Legislative Assembly. Surendranath Banerjee, Indian Liberal Federation. Madan Mohan Malviya, Banaras Hindu University, 1916. Lala Lajpat Rai, first presidency of the All India Trade Union Congress, founded in 1920. M.C. Raja, first elected president of All India Depressed Classes Association, 1926. All India Women's Conference was formed in 1927. Mahendra Lal Sarkar, in 1876, established the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science in Calcutta to promote scientific education as key to national improvement. Newspapers, journals: Free Hindustan, Tarak Nath Datta. Indian sociologist, Shyamji Krishna Verma. New India and Commonwealth, Annie Besant. Bombay Chronicle, B.G. Horniman. Pratap, Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi. Hickey's Gazette, Calcutta, first newspaper in India, also known as Calcutta General Advisor. Bengal Gazette's criticism of the government officials and attack on the Governor General led to the seizure of its press. Bombay Samachar, Delhi Urdu Akhbar, Delhi. Dadabhai Nauroji's paper, Poverty of India. Swadesh Mitran, G. Subramania Iyer. Indian Mirror, N.N. Sen. Advocate, G.P. Verma. Maharatta, G.G. Agarkar. Shyamji Krishna Verma, Indian sociologist. Tarak Nath Das, Free Hindustan. Ramnath Puri, Circular-e-Azadi. Bhagat Singh wrote for Hindi journal Pratap under pen name Balwant. Hind Kesari was the first Hindi version of Tilak's paper of the same name. Newspaper Abhyudaya was sponsored by Madan Mohan Malviya. Marathi daily Rashtramat gained great popularity as the organ of the extremist party led by Tilak. Nationalist newspaper Jugantar gave the call, force must be stopped by force. Sayyid Ahmad Khan published a modernist Urdu journal, Tehzeeb al-Akhlaq. Politics and Indian National Congress. As a movement, INC incorporated different political trends, ideologies and social groups, classes, so long as they were committed to democratic and secular nationalism. The early nationalist leaders did not organize mass movements but did carry out an ideological struggle against the oppressors and fought against every infringement of the freedom of press and speech. They struggled for separation of the judicial and executive powers and fought against racial discrimination. In 1889, women participated in the proceedings of INC for the first time. In 1936, R.P. Dutt and Ben Bradley, anti-imperialist People's Front within INC. Resolution of Karachi Congress 1930, assurance of popular fundamental rights, removal of caste and religious disability of all sections of the people, establishment of Indian provinces on linguistic basis, protection of the special rights of workers such as paid holidays, demands of moderates, simultaneous examination for the ICS in India and England, separation of the judiciary from the executive, repeal of the Arms Act, appointment of Indians to the commissioned rank in the army. G.D. Birla as a legislator in 1926-27 fought the election on the ticket of Nationalist Party. Indian members of Viceroy Executive Council who resigned in February 1943, M.S. Ane, H.P. Modi and N.R. Jayakar. Imperialists were not associated with the Indian national movement. Hindu conference held at Lahore under the presidency of Sir Praful Chandra Chatterjee. Muslim League, Sikandar Hayat Khan, Fazlul Haq, Khali Kuzaman. Lahore Resolution adopted by Muslim League on 23 March 1940. Jinnah acted as Dadabhai's secretary at the Calcutta Congress of 1906. Elections were held in British India in November 1923 for the Central Legislative Assembly. Jinnah focused on reviving the Muslim League at its Lahore session in 1923. The Hindu Mahasabha members like Madan Mohan Malviya, B.S. Munjay and Lajpat Rai rejected any reconciliation with the Muslim League. Karachi session of the Muslim League adopted the slogan "Divide and Quit." Muslim League formed on 30 December 1906. The aim was to promote among Indian Muslims feeling of loyalty towards the British government. The aim of Muslim League was to protect the political and other rights of the Indian Muslims. 1857 to 1947 events. Swadeshi movement. Creative use of traditional popular festivals such as Ganpati and Shivaji festivals and traditional folk theatre forms such as Jatras were extensively made. The technique of boycott included boycott of foreign goods, government schools, courts, titles and government services. Dadabhai Nauroji, first Indian to be elected to House of Commons. Nauroji said in 1871, "In my belief, a greater calamity would not befall India than for England to go away and leave her to herself." Bal Gangadhar Tilak, first to advise peasants in Maharashtra to withhold payment of land revenues when their crops failed owing to drought or famine or pestilence. He called for Swadeshi and boycott of British goods when Elgin, the viceroy, imposed an excise duty on Indian mill-made cloth. He was arrested in 1897 and charged with spreading hatred and disaffection against British government. He refused to apologize and accepted rigorous imprisonment for 18 months. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, father of Indian unrest. Tilak's release from Mandalay jail 1914. Shivaji Festival 1895. Death of Gopal Krishna Gokhale 1915. Rajendra Prasad presided the special session of Hindu Mahasabha in 1923. Cheros and Khairwars of Palamau rose under Pitambar Shahi in the revolt of 1857. During the revolt of 1857, British suffered defeat in the Battle of Chinhat. During revolt of 1857, Shahmal mobilized the villagers of Pargana Barut in Uttar Pradesh. Sayyid Ahmad Khan supported the East India Company in the 1857 rebellion. When Mangal Pandey opened fire at Barakpur on his officers, one of the fellow sepoys, Sheikh Paltu, tried to stop him. During Mangal Pandey's trial, Mangal Pandey had only one answer, that he had acted on his own. Digambar Vishwas and Bishnu Vishwas led Indigo Revolt in 1857 to 60. Kunwarji Mehta and Ishan Chandra Roy initiated the organizational work among the peasants in various parts of India to convey their grievances to the British government. Santhal Uprising of 1855. Area of uprising was called Damaniko. Tribals tried to expel the outsiders. Rebels proclaimed the complete annihilation of the alien regime. Militia of Ahoms drew its strength from organization of Paikas by goats, where each members were jointly responsible for military service for at least 12 months. Asaf Jha founded the Kingdom of Hyderabad in 1724. Uprising and their leaders: Ramosi Uprising, Chirpur Singh, Kol Uprising, Buddha Bhagat. Kacha Nagas uprising, Sambudhan, Oraon's uprising, Jatra Bhagat. Rabindranath Tagore won the Nobel Prize in 1913. Vellore Mutiny, 1806, during General Cradock under Governor Barlow. Brazen English attempt to convert the Indian soldiers to Christianity under the guise of military discipline. The sepoys were also ordered to change their traditional turbans for the kind of headdress adopted by Indian converts to Christianity. Reformers. Persondas Mulji started Satya Prakash in Gujarati 1852. Advocated widow remarriage. 27th December 1891, Ahmadiyya's reformers' first general gathering in Qadian, Punjab. Mahad Sweet Tank Satyagraha, not a part of INC program. Bhavani Mandir pamphlet. Sri Aurobindo depict Ramakrishna as the man god of the Mandir and Vivekanand his prophet. What great things were accomplished in these few years. Dr. J.C. Bose made this statement about the achievements of Vivekanand. Bengali prose by Vivekanand. Parivrajak, Bartaman, Bharat, Patravali. Narendra Dutt, also known as Vivekanand, attended Parliament of Religions at Chicago. Ramakrishna Mission was instituted in 1897. Vivekanand visited California and sowed seeds of future Vedanta centers in Los Angeles and San Francisco. He was invited to the Congress of the History of Religions at Paris and spoke there in the defense of Hinduism. Dhondo Keshav Karve, education of high caste Hindu widows. Munshi Premchand, first to portray the Dalits as independent and recognizable characters, both as part of the poor and with their own particular problems. Premchand was concerned both about social evils and enslaved conditions of his country. When the All India Women's Conference began their campaign in support of the Child Marriage Restraint Bill 1929, Sister Subbalakshmi gave evidence before the Joshi Committee about the harmful effects of youthful marriages. Non-Congress movement, All India Depressed Classes Mission Society of India. Annie Besant of the Madras Theosophical Society asserted that in ancient times, Hindu women were educated and moved freely in society. Ideals of Arya Samaj for female education, fatherhood of God and brotherhood of man, Shuddhi movement, equality between genders. In December 1856, the first widow remarriage under the Widow Remarriage Act 1856 was celebrated at the residence of Rajkrishna Bandyopadhyay. Gandhian activities, Gandhian programs, Talimi Sangh, Gram Udyog Sangh, Cow Protection Association. Gandhi Indian Opinion. Gandhi started a newspaper journal, Indian Opinion, in South Africa. Judith Brown, Gandhi's Rise to Power, Indian Politics, 1915 to 22. Judith Brown, subcontractor theory regarding mobilizing of support by Gandhi in regional areas. Gandhi started All India Anti-Untouchability League. Gandhi left Bombay in 1919 to promote the Satyagraha agitation in Delhi and Punjab, but was removed from train at Palwal and taken back to Bombay. In August 1942, Gandhi was arrested under Defence of India rules and lodged in Aga Khan Palace. Kasturba Gandhi died in February 1944 in the Aga Khan Palace, Pune. Mahatma Gandhi pleaded guilty of charge of sedition for writing 3 articles in Young India, tampering with loyalty, a puzzle and its solution, and shaking the mains. Annie Besant didn't accompany Mahatma Gandhi when he went to Champaran in 1917. Chauri Chaura on 5th February 1922, responsible for delaying the attainment of Swaraj as envisaged in 1920. Idea of Swaraj was not clearly defined, asserted by many contemporaries. Vardha scheme for education envisaged 7 years of basic education for rural children, including vocational training in village handicrafts. For Gandhi, Satyagraha aimed to penetrate the barriers of prejudice, ill will, dogmatism, self-righteousness, and selfishness. Gandhi explained the effectiveness of Satyagraha in terms of the spiritual impact of suffering love. Gandhi's political realism triumphed over his moral idealism, and despite its claim to the contrary, his satyagrahas were not always purely spiritual in nature. Quit India Movement 1942. In Kontai, the Swaraj Panchayat was started in November 1942. Tamralipt Jatiya Sarkar had a women's corps known as Bhagini Sena. The parallel government established at Tamluk started the mouthpiece Biplabi in Talcher during the Quit India movement. Chasi Mulia Raj was established. G. Hathnora specimen belongs to Homo erectus. Uttarbani in Jammu yielded early Paleolithic artifacts. Studies on Didwana Lake were conducted by Gurdeep Singh. Ganeshwar, Chalcolithic site in Rajasthan. Metrology, study of measurements and arrangement of coins by weights. Bhimbetka rock painting, perching birds that live on grain is not depicted. Only hunting is depicted. First epigraphic evidence of Sati. Iran pillar inscription of Bhanugupt, found in Neolithic cultures of India, ground and polished stone tools and domesticated barley and field pea. No temple have been found at any Harappan sites. Harappans had commercial links with the people of Tigris and Euphrates basins. Harappan sites that don't have evidence of fortification, Chanhularo. Shikarpur is a Harappan site in Kutch, Gujarat. Excavations revealed thick deposit of which lower levels represent an early Harappan phase and upper layers are mature Harappan phase. Info about the subsistence pattern of the Harappans in Gujarat. People of Shikarpur consumed meat of domesticated animals. Wild and aquatic animals varied considerably in different layers. Hoes and sickles, small weapons and horse trappings of iron found at megalithic sites. Maski and Nagarjun Konda are megalithic sites. Megalithic sites were centers of distribution and exchange. Many megalithic sites were located along important routes. Ports like Arikamedu near Pondicherry were linked to hinterland through megalithic activity. Excavation at Arikamedu revealed a range of Roman objects such as a glass and tableware. Megalithic cultures of India, iron tools and implements, horses, sarcophagi, dolmens. Megalithic structures, menhir, cairn, circle, dolmenoid, cyst, hood, stone, alignment. Archaeological site and their region. Jorve in Maharashtra, Kayat in Madhya Pradesh, Ojian, Rajasthan, Rojdi, Gujarat, Tekalla Koda, Karnataka, Takliyahat, Maharashtra, Jakhera, Uttar Pradesh, Gilund, Rajasthan. Minor rock edict, Panguran. Minor rock edicts and their location. Panguran, Sehor, MP, Madhya Pradesh. Uday Gulam in Bilari, Karnataka. Jatinga Rameshwar in Chitradurg, Karnataka. Aurora, Mirzapur, UP. Rock paintings in India first discovered by A.C.L. Carlyle. Painted grey ware first identified at Ahichhatra, Bareilly in 1940s by B.B. Lal. Also found at sites of Haryana, Punjab, Kashmir. Makhan Lal's study of Kanpur district in 1980s brought to light the PGW sites and their settlement patterns. Nagada represents a fairly evolved village culture. PGW material culture, Alamgirpur, Kampil, Noh, Bhagwanpur and Hastinapur. Dating techniques of archaeological remains. Thermoluminescence method, accelerated mass spectrometry, electron spin resonance method. Architecture. Kailash Temple at Ellora is an unparalleled monument in terms of its artistry and craftsmanship of Indian rock-cut architecture. The temple of Kailash was built by cutting away more than 50 million tons of rock from the sloping hill in the region. Arch, dome and vault of the Sultanate architecture was incorporated in the Mughal style. The element of provincial style were made part of the Mughal structure. The palace city of Fatehpur Sikri is a brilliant architecture specimen of this kind of style. Monument, calligrapher, Buland Darwaza, Fatehpur Sikri, Ahmad Al-Chasti. Atagha Khan's tomb, Delhi, Baqi Muhammad. Shah Begum's tomb, Allahabad, Mir Abdullah Mushkin Kalam. Itmad ud-Daula's tomb, Agra, Abd al-Nabi al-Qureshi. Turk sultans used the arch and dome on a wide scale, though neither was a Turkish or Muslim innovation. Turks used fine quality lime mortar. They used slab and beam method in their buildings. First true arch, tomb of Ghiyasuddin Balban. Cave temples of Ellora related to Brahmanical religion. Dumera Lena and Ravan Ki Khai. Brick temples, Bhitargaon, Temple Kanpur and Lakshman Temple, Sirpur. Ancient educational institutions on bank of River Ganga. Vikramshila University. Historiography, interpretation in historical writing. To know what a document means is as much a challenge to critical judgment as to know when or by whom was it written, or whether one may trust it. The literary exposition of historical data is greatly conditioned by the interpretation one places upon them. Factual interpretation deals with the facts of a document, not with the words. Early Orientalism of British scholars. By establishing a linguistic connection between Sanskrit, Greek, Latin, William Jones privileged India with an antiquity equal to that of classical West. The beginning of Orientalist tradition led to the founding of Calcutta Madrasa and the Asiatic Society of Bengal. Bhartendu Harishchandra created and developed his own brand of nationalist thinking and writing within the political and cultural framework. Being a subject to the British Raj, Bhartendu saw no contradiction in the coexistence of loyalty to the rulers and fierce patriotism. He is considered as the father of modern Hindi literature. Economic critique of colonialism. British administrators attributed the rapid construction of railroads and the growth of India's foreign trade as a proof of India's prosperity. For nationalists, a negative impact on indigenous industries, foreign trade and railways represented India's underdevelopment of economy. Bias and objectivity. Objective interpretations in history writing are those which best meet rational criteria of accuracy, comprehensiveness, consistency, and openness. If historical explanation occurs accidentally by mistake through an oversight, one cannot call them biased but just wrong. Mistakes in biased history are motivated, not accidental. Biased descriptions are often unjust, presenting a one-sided impression of their subject. Sigmund Freud inspired the emergence of psychohistory. For Baudrillard, the most important feature of postmodernity was simulation. Colonial science was inextricably woven into the whole fabric of colonialism. Colonial science did not come in a neat package. The claims of universality and the utility of science messed up its identity. Lucien Febvre, if history teaches any lesson at all, it is that there are no historical lessons. The imperial civilization may well have absorbed numerous contributions from various conquered people to understand and adopt a new culture. Yuval Noah Harari. Arnold Toynbee rejected the conventional boundaries between nations and asserted that only civilizations were the proper subject of study. Oswald Spengler challenged the belief of Eurocentrism. Frank Ankersmith, in his work History and Anthropology, generally steers a middle path between historicism and postmodernism, which he considers as a radicalization of historicism. Leopold von Ranke, leading role in establishing history as a respected discipline in universities, established the notion that all proper history must be based on primary sources and rigorous methodology. G.W.F. Hegel, German scholar, wrote extensively on Indian intellectual history without learning any Indian language. Morris Davis rejected deindustrialization and claimed a significant economic advancement during colonial rule in 19th century. At some times and places there will be no roads, docks, harbors, canals, works of irrigation, hospitals, schools, colleges, printing presses, unless the government establishes them. Quotation from John Stuart Mill's Political Economy refers to interventionism policy adopted by the company government. James Mill described the ancient period of Indian history as the Hindu period and the medieval period as a Muslim period. He failed to characterize modern period as the Christian period. R.C. Majumdar refused to accept the 1857 rebellion as the first war of independence. Colonial sources cited the rebellion of 1857 as Sepoy Mutiny. R.G. Collingwood wrote, "All history is the history of ideas." C.A. Bailey, Delhi, Agra and Lahore has lost much of their older glory. There was a significant expansion of small towns in the mid-Ganga region from around the 1720s. H.H. Risley summed up the motive behind the partition of Bengal as Bengal united is a power, Bengal divided will pull in several ways. T.R. Holmes popularized the view that the revolt of 1857 was a conflict between civilization and barbarism. Benjamin Disraeli described it as a national rising. V.D. Savarkar referred to the revolt as a planned war of national independence. The main thrust of R.C. Majumdar's argument is that the uprising of 1857 was not a war of independence. Majumdar's argument is that John Seeley described the revolt of 1857 as only army revolt in nature. Subramanya Bharati, who wrote in Bengali like Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, used the imagery of gods and goddesses of the Hindu pantheon. He composed a poem in praise of Jesus in which he says of the symbolism of the death on the cross. He also wrote poems in Malayalam. Miscellaneous. Saraswati was an artist and a poet. Sinivali was an entertainer. Aswins was a surgeon, charioteer, and sailor. Vishwaroop was a potter and a fabricator. Earliest mention of the use of belt drive for powering gem cutting comes from Traveller's account of tavernier and friar. Monopsony, it is a form of market with many sellers but only one buyer, who is in a position to dictate terms to the sellers. 1st May, Workers' Day in memory of police firing in America in 1861 on workers for the demand of an 8-hour working day. Brunjis, genealogical records from Assam. SC consists of a Chief Justice and 33 judges. Supreme Court has both original and appellate jurisdiction. VP of India elected by members of both houses of parliament in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of the single transferable vote. 42nd Amendment Act 1976. 10 fundamental duties for its citizens. Cinema, art and music. Film Dr. Courtenis ki Amar Kahani 1946. Work of Indian Medical Mission sent to Japan. Artist Dada Bhai Nauroji, artist and what they are known for. Dada Saheb Phalke, Mohini Bhasmasur. Vijay Bhatt, Ram Rajya. Master Vinayak, Brandy Ki Botal. Shantaram, Dunya Na Mane. Painters and their painting style. Abanindranath Tagore blended common objects and events with the magic of fantasy. Rabindranath Tagore made a gripping interweave of naivete and sophistication in his paintings. Nandalal Bose learned lessons from various aspects of world traditions and blended them in his paintings. Jamini Roy developed a personal style that ran close to the village tradition. Painting technique, meaning khat, margin, tad, sketch, outline, drawing. Rangamezi, mixing of color, coloring. Shams, illuminated heading. Ekta, 1942, JBH Wadia. Apna Desh, 1949, V. Shantaram. Jhansi Ki Rani, 1953, Sohrab Modi. Rath, 1931, R.S. Chaudhary. Sardar Patel was instrumental in getting the smuggled footage of INA for a film on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Lakshmi Kant Shukla, as a freedom fighter, spent 8 years in the infamous cellular jail at Port Blair, Andaman Islands, and also directed 2 non-feature films, Anokhi and Dalit Kusum. David Casbe played the role of Veer Savarkar in full-length documentary reconstruction by Prem Vaidya. Bhuli Nahi was a film on the life and struggle of revolutionary Pradyut Bhattacharya. 42, 1949, the film was about Quit India movement, 1942. Dadu Dayal composed Khari Boli Muktaz. Member of Indian Cinematograph Committee, 1927 to 28. Diwan Bahadur T. Rangacharya, K.C. Niyogi, Colonel J.D. Crawford. Vimal Roy's Pehla Aadmi film portrayed a phase of Bose's life and the work of INA in Singapore. K. Subramanya Swamy. Bala Yogini was about the suffering of K. Subramaniam films. Bala Yogini was about the suffering of a widow and the daughter, while Tyag Bhumi was about the plight of untouchables. The film Seva Sadan was a patriotic film. The film Vande Mataram was in Telugu, made by B.N. Reddy. Brandy Ki Botal, 1939, begins with Sardar Patel's speech. The Mill Mazdoor. Original title of film Seth Ki Ladki, The Merchant's Daughter, 1935, which was again renamed as Daya Ki Devi, Goddess of Mercy. Rabindranath Tagore acted in the film Nadir Puja, 1932, as an old monk. In response to Indian Cinematograph Committee's questionnaire, Mahatma Gandhi wrote a letter to the chairman of the committee that he felt cinema was sinful technology. Pierre Solden said, "Film can open our minds to another, more vivid and human, less literary understanding of the past." E. Rangacharya, chairperson of Indian Cinematography Committee. In 1896, the first screening of a film at Watson's Hotel, Bombay took place.